in 1982, Pajero became a reality in showrooms. This car was a better drive on road. Being a terrific family four-wheel drive is not to taint this vehicle with being a soft roader. It wasn't.
Pajero gives you the equipment to go off-road.
Magnificent. Mitsubishi of Japan produced Jeeps under licence from the days of World War II. By the late 1970s, Mitsubishi's masters were looking to ride the wave of popularity of recreational vehicles, four-wheel drives. And in 1979, they showed a Pajero concept car. By 1982, the production Pajero was a reality. The Mitsubishi Pajero arrived in Australia in the middle of 1983, only about 6 months after the vehicle's launch in its home market of Japan. And I think Australia was actually the first international export market for Pajero. Anyway, when the vehicle arrived, it was available as a little rorty, short wheelbase, quite a fun little wagon. And then the 5-door wagon came along about 1 year later. It was the 5-door wagon in particular that was a game changer both in Australia and internationally for the four-wheel drive market. Now, I'm not making the claim that the Pajero was the first family four-wheel drive ever created. Of course, the Jeep Cherokee from America and the Range Rover from the UK were family-friendly four-wheel drives. But both those cars were quite old designs by the early 1980s. Both those cars had two beam axles, which, although okay for off-road driving, didn't match the technology of the Pajero's independent front suspension chassis. Now, what that meant was this car was a better drive on road. This was the sort of car that you could buy your wife. This is the sort of car that your mum could drive you to school in. It wasn't as truck-like to drive as the Jeep Cherokee, the Range Rover, the Land Rover, and the Nissan Patrol and the Toyota Land Cruiser, which were all available in the market at the same time. This was more car-like. This was more comfortable. That's what made this such a significant vehicle. This is a comfy cabin. The Pajero is a comfortable place to be. These seats are terrific up front, good clear instruments. The driving position is terrific. In fact, the driving position is part of the appeal. This quite tall cabin and tall seating is part of the appeal of the Pajero to a lot of people over the years. And it's from the comfortable cabin of a Pajero that a whole generation of Australians first saw the Aussie bush, first saw the Aussie outback. Another big part of the appeal of the Pajero wagon was the fact that it was available with 7 seats. That was a pretty big idea back in the 1980s. Up the back of the car, when this car was new, there was 2 little fold-down dicky seats, if you like. They could fold up out of the way, allowing the vehicle to be used as a wagon, or, of course, folded down to carry another couple of your kids' mates to soccer. And, of course, that means that the Pajero is one of the original soccer mum cars. Being a terrific family four-wheel drive is not to taint this vehicle with being a soft roader. It wasn't. It's got a proper separate chassis with a body plonked on top. These things were formidable in rallying in the 1980s. Mitsubishi, from memory, was the first Japanese manufacturer to enter the Paris to Dakar rally back in the 1980s. 1983, and in 1985, Pajero actually won the Paris Dakar rally. the world's toughest rally. In fact, in the Paris to Dakar Rally, the world's toughest off-road endurance event, Mitsubishi went on to become the winningest manufacturer in the event's history. Even by 1983, when the first Pajero entered the Paris to Dakar Rally, Mitsubishi had a rallying heritage. In Australia in the 1970s, supported by Chrysler Australia, Mitsubishi entered Gallants and then Lancers in the Southern Cross rallies. The Southern Cross Rally was Australia's peak rally event back in the glory days of Australian rallying. These Pajeros are really good to drive. This is 35 or 36 years old, and it's just so easy. There's no fighting through the steering wheel. There's no blah, 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 blah of a big heavy beam axle throwing the front end of the car around. So yeah, for 1983, when this chassis first arrived in Australia, it must have been an absolute revelation to drive compared to some of the other stuff. I reckon this is an easier car to drive than a 1970s Falcon or Holden. I know people are going to hate me for that, but that's the truth.
Being a four-wheel drive vehicle, Pajero gives you the equipment to go off-road. Like many vehicles of its era in the 1980s, the Pajero has a part-time four-wheel drive system. On road, on bitumen, you're running in rear-wheel drive. On gravel roads and places like farm paddocks, maybe snow, you're running in four-wheel drive high range. And for steeper terrain, such as what we're playing on today, you've got the four-wheel drive low range, which actually sort of magnifies the engine power to give you better ability in steep terrain. As good as it is on road, the Pajero's independent front suspension doesn't quite match vehicles such as Range Rover, Patrol and Land Cruiser off-road. But as an all-rounder, it does a pretty good job. Okay, so I've mentioned the independent front suspension might not match some of the other big boy off-road vehicles off-road, but the Pajero's rear axle on the coil spring models has got a bit more flex, which goes a long way to making up for what the independent front suspension can't do.
That'll do. Not here to wreck the tracks. Anyway, there you go, boys and girls. These Pajeros are a good all-round family truckster. I like them. I actually own this one. I was sort of thinking about selling it, but maybe I shouldn't. Cameron, what do you reckon?
Oh, geez, I'm not very good at selling anything, mate.
I'm not very good at selling anything.
No.
That, folks, is the story of the Mitsubishi Pajero. Born of Mitsubishi's desire to be part of the exploding recreational vehicle scene, the four-wheel drive family scene, in the early 1980s. This vehicle arrived in Australia in 1983 and it was sold all around the world, really putting Mitsubishi on the map as a four-wheel drive manufacturer. Formidable in the Paris to Dakar rallies, the model survived until the early 1990s when it was replaced by the second generation Pajero. But that's a story for another day. I'm Glenn Torrance, you've been watching Addicted to Cars. Thank you for your support and we'll see you in the next episode.